All right, so session 4 of the week. Surprisingly, not too beat up or sore after my big Wednesday session. After that 160 kilo behind the neck power jerk, I kind of took Thursday off as I normally do. I had a rest day, and then I was back into it. So I started with the typical format. I start off with some plyometrics. Today there were some pretty light plyometrics, and then I got into the session, which consisted of some muscle cleans, some behind the neck push press, and then I had some back squats, and then I did a bunch of accessories. I think it was the volume day for the bench press, it was the heavy day for the pull ups, so lower reps, higher weight, and then for the bench press, it was kind of 3 by 6 at 110 kilos, and then I did some accessories for my hamstrings and my triceps and that kind of thing. So I guess after on one of the videos I spoke about training around injuries, and one of the biggest things was staying motivated and making sure that you train kind of no matter what the injury is. Unless you're bedbound, you should keep training. That was the general sense of it because it's going to aid everything. It's going to aid your neurological adaptations as best as possible. You're going to do a best job of maintaining any kind of muscle mass that you had while that you got before you were injured, and it's going to keep you motivated and keep your mental health nice and high. So it's all good things. I guess the part two of that was what is the best method to progress. So now you're back from injury. What's the best method to progress? How can you now make the most of the fact that you kept training and you've rehabilitated correctly, and now you're back to training? And I think the biggest mistake that I see when for my own training in the past and friends around me and with clients is that people aren't consistent. The number one tip that I would give anyone is pick something that you enjoy doing or find an exercise or a routine and stick with it. Whether that happens to be walking, for 30 minutes every day, whether it's, 100 push ups 5 days a week, plus a walk every day, whatever it is, the biggest thing is to stay consistent. That consistency is going to be the biggest driver towards progress. This is very true for weightlifting, this is true for any kind of strength sport, and it's just true for training in general. Sure, at the very start of your training, novel stimulus can work. You can jump around, you can do some push ups, and then you can do some, go to a powerlifting program, and then you can play with some gymnastics, and then you could go, do bodybuilding style training. And you'd find that there's a lot of carryover because you're so fresh to any kind of training in general. You're going to get all these fantastic kind of software updates, what I like to call them, for neurological adaptations. You're going to lay down a bunch of tissue because you're fresh into it. So, lean muscle mass, protein synthesis is going to be off the chart, most likely, and you're going to find benefits. But that period runs out really quickly. And when that period runs out, you can no longer jump around. And that's when the motivation and the dedication and hopefully the habits that you've created are going to allow you to lead to success in improving. So, you know, instead of jumping around programs, what we want to be looking for is people staying on program and sticking it out. That's going to be the biggest driver. So for me, how I like to kind of combat getting bored, but while staying on a program, is I've explained before that I kind of do 4 weeks on of a weightlifting program, and that and I do 1 week off for a deload, and then during that period I like to play around with different accessories. So maybe the lifts stay very similar. I might be snatching and clean and jerking quite regularly, just 2 to 3 times a week in different variations. I might be squatting very regularly, front squatting especially because it's very specific to weightlifting. But then after that, I like to change up the accessories. At the moment, I'm focusing on very heavy pull-ups because it works for me in lockdown. Sometimes I might focus on very heavy dips, or I'll focus on even just trying to do more bicep curls or whatever it is, and that can be my novel stimulus on the side. It can be different to my primary goal, and that allows me to kind of work harder at staying on program to elicit those gains. Because if we look at the principle of specific adaptations, if you're jumping around and your goal was to get stronger, but you're jumping from a small off squat program to a squat every day program to a a really high frequency squat program to only back squatting once a week, and front squatting and then overhead squatting, and you're switching it up, you're making it very difficult to get good at your end goal. For a lot of people, getting good is just, for training is just about having fun. And in the case of that, maybe, more novelty and switching programs is fine. But for a lot of people, fun is a byproduct of being driven and successful. So seeing the weights change, seeing the weights improve, seeing you get stronger, seeing your quads grow, whatever it is. And for that outcome to be achieved, you've got to stick to some kind of program regularly. And honestly, we get caught up on programming a lot. Should it be, should I be linear periodization? Should I, auto-regulate week to week like I spoke about last time? Should it be based upon velocity? All I can say is, without kind of knowing your specific scenario, I would encourage you just to stick to something and run it for 4 to 6 weeks. Do it, work hard, listen to your body, make sure you don't, and then try to add upon that, whether it's in kilos, whether it's in time under tension, whether it's in the amount of reps, whether it's in the amount of sessions. Recover, analyze whether or not you got closer to your goal, analyze if you enjoyed the process, if that was something that you enjoyed doing, and then you can re-establish that. Maybe you've decided you want to be able to do a handstand now, you're really happy that your bench press went up 20 kilos, well then it's time for some, handstand exercise. It's time to add that into the program. And then repeat and go again and again and again and change it up. Obviously there's, styles of concurrent training which can happen too, where you can run 2 things at the same time and you can kind of alternate them and vice versa. But all the common denominator amongst all successful people that have achieved good results in their training, even if it's relative to them, not necessarily Olympians or anything, is that they were consistent and they worked very hard. That's the common ones that I see. They're consistent and they worked very hard. They didn't let injuries stop them. They made sure they worked around them. They stayed very motivated when they didn't want to train, and they kept training consistently, and they formed good habits so that they were disciplined in being able to keep that approach going. And personally, if that means starting off very small, like I said before, starting off with walks or push-ups and doing those regularly, that's much better than being all or nothing. So either doing a full, 5-day-a-week program where you train for 2 hours but then not training for 2 weeks, compared to doing something every single week consistently. That's going to be the best for building habits and building that motivation, and thus getting stronger, better, and faster. And the minute that I was able to stay consistent, I grinded on exercises and I kept doing them and I kept sticking to them. I jumped around less often and I just stuck with the process even if it felt slow and tiring. There'd be these little kind of leaps after a plateau of huge progress that I could reap the benefits of all the hard work. Found this with my bench press. Recently I've started training that again. I found this with my pull-ups. They're getting quite heavy. And I've even found this with my kind of jerking movements. If something clicked, all the extra volume and the hard work of pull-up, jerking rather, paid off. And so I've been able to reap the reward after kind of putting in all the hard work. And so the goal moving forward, in regards to my training, would be I'm going to finish this cycle. This is week 3 at the moment. I'm going to go to week 4. I'm going to see how that goes. Potentially be a little bit more conservative because I kind of pushed a little bit hard this week and it's only week 3. I'm going to deload and kind of reassess where we're at, how the body feels, how the back feels. Before you saw some kind of new exercises that I'm playing around with a little bit. I've been doing some back squats to a box. I don't generally like back squats that much, ironically, but I've been trying to play them to a box and then doing some pause arse to grass ones and see how my body tolerates them, and then see if I can re-implement them. For a long time, back squats, for whatever reason, my body just didn't like to tolerate them. Knees, back, hips got really sore from them. And in regards to the specificity, can't say that word. In regards to the specific nature of weightlifting, front squatting was way more important. And with a front squat of 173 kilos, I've always been able to front squat way more than I can clean. And I can only back squat 185 kilos anyway. So a very small gap. I'm a terrible back squatter, but I figured maybe it's time to slowly introduce them while I can't leg press because I'm in lockdown at home.